Modern terrestrial medicine operates on a single foundational premise. The human body is a biochemical machine, driven exclusively by fluid-chemical interactions. This categorization is the bedrock of a trillion-dollar industry. When biology is defined strictly by chemical interactions, healing becomes a matter of applying synthetic, patentable compounds to manage chronic conditions. However, a forgotten document from the early 20th century offers a different assessment of human biology, one that was officially validated by the federal government. In 1934, the United States Patent Office granted U.S. Patent 1962565A to an engineer named Georges Lakhovsky. This patent defines the human biological form as a collection of oscillating electrical circuits. If the government recognized and patented a functional method for reversing cellular decay using electrical resonance nearly a century ago, we must investigate why this physics was removed from the medical curriculum. Georges Lakhovsky analyzed biology through the lens of electrical engineering. He proposed that every living cell functions as a microscopic radio transceiver. The nucleus of a cell contains chromosomes and DNA, highly coiled tubular filaments. In the world of circuits, a coil of conductive material possesses inductance and capacitance. These components make the cell an oscillating LC circuit. Every cell has a specific natural resonant frequency, determined by the mathematical relationship between its inductance and its capacitance. Disease is the mechanical degradation of the circuit. When a cell is exposed to toxins or radiation, its dielectric properties break down, causing the electrical amplitude of its oscillation to drop. Healthy cells maintain a resting membrane potential between -40 and -80 millivolts. Sickness manifests as the loss of this charge. As the voltage drops, the cell loses the energetic amplitude required to function. A cancer cell is essentially a biological battery that has drained. It vibrates at a lower, dissonant frequency compared to the healthy tissue surrounding it. Lakhovsky's solution was the Multi-Wave Oscillator, a device designed to recharge the cellular battery using external electromagnetism. The machine utilizes sympathetic resonance. Just as a specific musical note can cause a distant wine glass to vibrate, an electromagnetic field can induce a matching vibration in a biological circuit. The multi-wave oscillator broadcasts a massive, broadband spectrum of frequencies. It bathes the entire body in high-frequency electromagnetic waves, ranging from extremely low to ultra-high frequencies. Because the body contains trillions of cells with unique dimensions, there is no single healing frequency. Instead, each weakened cell tunes in and absorbs only the specific wavelength it lacks from the total broadcast. This absorption pulls the cell's voltage back to its healthy -70 millivolt baseline. Once the electrical charge is restored, the cell regains the energy necessary to repair DNA damage and purge pathogens. By providing the raw energy required to re-establish cellular oscillation, the multi-wave oscillator functions as a wireless charger for human biology, restoring the order lost during the aging process. A machine capable of repairing cells using ambient electricity posed a direct threat to the financial structure of early 20th century medicine. You cannot meter a radio frequency or sell it as a daily pill. A device that cures a patient through resonance effectively removes that individual from the pharmaceutical consumer cycle. The response was a systemic purge. In 1910, the Carnegie and Rockefeller Foundations funded the Flexner Report, which was used to delegitimize any medical practice not based on patentable chemical interventions. The American Medical Association and the FDA enforced this new medical monopoly. They dismantled Lakhovsky's clinics, seized his oscillators, and ensured that frequency-based healing was erased from the public record. The technology to reverse cellular entropy was documented and patented nearly a century ago. To reclaim our health, we must look beyond the pharmacy and return to the electrical principles of the human body.
Okay, so what we're looking at today isn't some random late-night internet rumor. Not at all. We are running a forensic audit on a series of recently surfaced dossiers, and these documents make a truly explosive claim about human biology, the actual physics of disease, and a heavily suppressed medical patent from the early 20th century, known as the Lakhovsky Protocol. Welcome to The Explainer. Let's get right into it.
So what if the cure for cellular decay was patented way back in 1934 and then just completely erased from history? It's a pretty wild question, right? But according to the declassified texts and architectural blueprints we're unpacking today, a brilliant engineer patented a machine that healed damaged cells using raw radio waves instead of synthetic chemicals. And the dossiers claim this technology was purposefully and systematically buried by the medical establishment.
Okay, let's dive into this because the foundational argument of our source material requires us to completely rethink how we view the human body. The official narrative, the one enforced by modern medicine, says we're basically biochemical machines, right? Just bags of meat and fluid driven by Newtonian chemical reactions. But what the dossiers call the suppressed reality classifies the human body as a highly advanced solid-state quantum optical resonator. Basically, the text argues you aren't just chemistry. You're an electrical antenna, and your health is entirely dictated by electromagnetic resonance.
Section 1, the Microscopic LC Circuit, and the Biophysics of the 1920s.
To really grasp this, we have to look at some hardcore biophysics from a Russian-born engineer named Georges Lakhovsky. The text claims Lakhovsky mathematically proved that every single biological cell acts as a microscopic radio transceiver. Now, in electrical engineering, an LC circuit uses an inductor coil to store magnetic energy and a capacitor to store electrical energy. The source explains that your DNA filaments actually act as the inductor coil, and the literal space between them acts as the capacitor. Every single cell in your body is essentially a tiny radio.
And because it is a radio, the dossiers argue it follows absolute mathematical laws, specifically the formula for resonant frequency. F equals 1 over 2 pi times the square root of LC. The source treats this equation like a declassified blueprint. It dictates that every healthy human cell possesses its own specific, natural resonant frequency. When your microscopic LC circuits are vibrating right at that optimal frequency, you experience total health. So, the crucial point is, when a cell is healthy, its internal circuit oscillates at a high amplitude, maintaining a resting electrical charge between -40 and -80 millivolts. The cell membrane acts as a dielectric insulator to hold that charge. Think of this exactly like the body's internal battery. When the battery is fully charged, the cell's vibration is strong, and it can effortlessly perform all its biological duties. But what happens when that battery drains? The source documents claim that modern environmental stressors violently degrade the cell's capacitance. When you are exposed to chemical toxins, ionizing radiation, or what the text uniquely calls the archonic 440 Hz acoustic dissonance utilized in modern media, the dielectric properties of your cells are physically degraded. Basically, the battery is drained. And this brings us to a radical redefinition of disease and aging. Based on the source text, disease is not primarily a chemical failure, it is entropy. It is purely an electrical voltage drop. A cancer cell, under this biophysical model, is simply a cell whose internal battery has drained, causing it to lose its vibrational amplitude and vibrate at a dissonant, much lower frequency than the healthy tissue surrounding it. Section 2, the Lakhovsky Protocol, recharging the cell. So, if the problem is a drained biological battery, how do you fix it? Well, the dossiers claim you must recharge it, and that the literal blueprints to do so actually exist. On June 12, 1934, Georges Lakhovsky was granted U.S. Patent 1962565A. Having this patent number visually grounds the massive claims of our source text in verifiable historical documentation. The patent was for an apparatus with circuits oscillating with multiple wavelengths. Lakhovsky built a device called the Multi-Wave Oscillator, or MWO. This machine was designed to broadcast a massive, broadband spectrum of electromagnetic frequencies directly into weakened human tissue.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict described in our source material. The text completely contrasts the modern chemical method, which attempts to heal the body by poisoning rogue cells with synthetic chemicals, against Lakhovsky's thermodynamic reversal of entropy. Electromagnetic medicine doesn't poison the cell. It just recharges the cell's LC circuit with raw electromagnetism, restoring its natural dominance.
Section 3, Sympathetic Cellular Resonance and Mechanical Engineering. How did this machine actually interact with the trillions of distinct cells in a human body? The text praises the engineering of the MWO antenna array as absolute genius. It featured a high-voltage spark-gap Tesla coil connected to a specialized antenna made of multiple concentric, broken metallic rings of copper, brass, and silver. Because each ring was a different size, when the current hit the antenna, it didn't just broadcast one single frequency. It broadcast a massive, simultaneous electromagnetic cord spanning from extremely low frequencies all the way up into the gigahertz range. Here is the physics of how it's supposedly healed. First, the MWO broadcasts this massive broadband spectrum. Second, a sick person is placed between the antennas. Because of sympathetic resonance, every weakened cell in the body naturally tunes in and absorbs its exact, specific, missing frequency from the broadcast, just like a tuning fork. Third, the cell acts as a wireless charger, absorbing the energy to restore its healthy -70 millivolt baseline, which suddenly gives it the power to purge toxins, repair DNA, and overwhelm parasitic cancer cells.
Section 4. The Archonic Medical Monopoly and the Cover-Up.
Now, you're probably wondering, if this technology worked as the physics suggests, why isn't it in every hospital today? The dossiers present this timeline to explain the suppression. In 1910, they claim the Rockefeller-funded Flexner report established a monolithic, patentable chemical monopoly over medicine. By 1925, Lakhovsky publishes his Resonant physics, and by 1934, he patents the MWO. But by the mid-20th century, the FDA and the American Medical Association began a ruthless, totally coordinated campaign to dismantle frequency clinics entirely. The source, in what it calls the Gnostic indictment, delivers this furious quote: "The modern medical industrial complex is not in the business of health. It is in the business of disease management." The text argues that the multi-wave oscillator posed an existential economic threat to a nascent trillion-dollar pharmaceutical cartel. Simply put, a cured patient is a lost customer. Now, what's really interesting about this next point is the sheer severity of the pushback. The text says, they seized the machines, discredited the physicists, and forced the medical establishment to focus exclusively on biochemistry. The dossiers allege this was a brutal, militarized suppression of etheric science. Because the deep state could not patent and meter raw ambient electromagnetism, they had to destroy the machines to protect their chemical profits. We leave you with this highly provocative thought directly from our source material. Think about it. If you can actually cure cellular decay with a radio frequency, how can a monopoly sell you a lifetime supply of chemical drugs? The dossiers we explored today challenge the very foundation of modern medicine, suggesting that the key to ultimate health isn't found in a pharmacy, but in the suppressed physics of the cellular radio. It certainly leaves us questioning the true architecture of the human body. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking questions.